Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hi Jason, do you think that after losing substantial amounts of weight during weight loss phase, the body gains muscle very easily? If so, how can we optimize the process? Well, yeah, the body gains muscle more easily, but what do you mean optimize the process? We already know how to gain muscle, right? So my response to that would be, I have countless videos on gaining muscle. Do you think that that isn't intended to be optimal? Right? When you go up to a calorie surplus, increase your protein, train near maximum recoverable volumes, use progressive overload, run an appropriate program for you at your current experience level. Okay, that's how you maximize muscle growth. Now, you need to keep in mind a lot of the quote-unquote muscle growth or weight that you gain after a substantial amount of weight loss is water, by the way. Some of it's subcutaneous, most of it's intramuscular. Usually, hopefully, people realize when you go into a deficit, a lot of times the first 4 or 5 pounds you drop is muscle water and muscle glycogen. It's not even body fat or tissue. So when you go back into a surplus, what do you think some of that is? Regaining that. So a big part of your bulk and cut the first week each time you go from one to another is going to be intramuscular water and glycogen and triglycerides and things like that. But are you primed to gain muscle more quickly? Of course you are, because you've usually lost muscle. You've usually lost muscle mass. Well, if we've lost muscle mass, it's a little easier to regain it. Now, it's not as amazing as people think. A lot of people would say, oh, well, it's okay to drop some muscle while losing weight because you can regain it easier. You regain it a little faster, but you still have growth limitations. It's not like because you have muscle memory kick in that you magically are going to gain more than 2 pounds of muscle tissue in a month, right? You don't gain like 4 pounds of muscle every month just because of muscle memory. Meaning muscle memory might let you replicate noob gains. And by that same token, if a noob does a lot of dieting and loses, say, 50 pounds of body weight, they're just going to see basically, in my experience, normal noob gains after. It's not going to be exceptional. It's not like it's going to be this enormous, like they're eating Diana Bowl level muscle growth. Okay, it's not going to happen. So yes, it is going to be easier to gain muscle, but you optimize it the same way we always optimize muscle. You need to train at well above your minimum effective volumes on a good program with good training methods. That's how you maximize it. Eating a quality diet rich in protein. Hopefully at least a small surplus at that point. Right? It's pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated. It's no different than gaining muscle any other time. All right, next question. How do you increase your maintenance to over 3,000? Lift 3 times per week and do 20 minutes conditioning every day and that's it? Or do you slowly increase caloric intake over time and monitor weight? Thanks. I think you're missing the big picture here. All right, muscle mass plus physical activity. Okay, muscle mass plus physical activity. I have clients who still have 2,400 maintenances, who are making gains, by the way. They have sedentary lifestyles due to their jobs. They train 4 days a week still. But they have very, very, very sedentary lifestyles. Okay, I've got a couple of those. And they train hard. I mean, I'm talking guys, you know, who are past their 225 bench, past their 400 deadlift type stuff. They're there. But they have a very low NEAT because they don't ever bulk. They don't do conditioning work, and they have very sedentary jobs outside of their 4 training sessions a week. And they still have fairly low ones. I have guys with 4,000 plus calorie needs. So the way that you would do this is through physical activity. And I don't mean necessarily tons of conditioning. That helps. You do this by getting on good training programming, gaining muscle and strength consistently, because that alone will bring everything up, and small calorie surplus. Usually the people that have the highest energy turnovers are the people who generally stay at maintenance or a hair above maintenance calories for very, 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 very long periods of time while increasing strength, muscle, and energy turnover. All right, that's really your key, because your NEAT goes up. Right, your NEAT goes up, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. For those unfamiliar with the term, that goes up. Gaining muscle mass makes everything go up. So it's not like it's a set amount of time or a specific way to do it. You're listing very specific stuff, and I'm just telling you, keep training and don't do cuts. Don't spend long periods of time down at a calorie deficit. Right? Focus on recomposition. If your goal is to have the highest energy turnover possible, very high maintenance, you need to do recomps, not cuts. You don't want to be in a calorie deficit, because that drives NEAT down, drives activity down, everything else. Do your training, do your Metcon. I think 20 minutes of Metcon every day, unless you have a reason to do that, I don't know that that's ideal. If you do conditioning twice a week and get more training in under your barbell. Unless you need a higher degree of conditioning, in which case, by all means, do 20 minutes. But understand that that may not be ideal for increasing muscle or strength. Most guys out there could get their GPP in twice a week, for the majority of people. Put a little more of your recovery into your training volume. That would be my opinion, for what it's worth. All right, next question, and last question of the week. Is leg press for volume after heavy squats a reasonable accessory for hypertrophic response, especially if controlled for depth and done at 3x10 as you've advocated for recently? Look, you can make any exercise work. So I want to make that clear. I don't like the leg press. I am someone who used to do a ton of leg pressing, and I mean that word literally, by the way. A ton is 2,000 pounds. For non-Americans. So the problem with the leg press is that you spend all day loading and unloading plates, and people find they're stronger on the leg press than they think they are. I get guys who think that 1,000 pounds is heavy on the leg press, or I've got 800 pounds on there doing sets of 10. Oh, I'm struggling. I'm going to be honest, you're a weak pussy if you're doing 800 pounds for sets of 10. That's literally girl weight on a leg press. I know women who do that. Then what they find is that they're a weak squatter and they have weak legs, or that they find when they add another 400 pounds, it's not really significantly harder, right? It is for the first workout or two, and then all of a sudden they're doing that for sets of 10. When they take 800 to 1,200, okay. It magically within 2 weeks becomes your 10 rep max. You just weren't trying hard. And it's because there's a psychological factor with loading 1,000 pounds onto a leg press that makes people think it's heavy. It's not. It really isn't. It's also hard on your back. I don't like the leg press, and I've always been clear on that. It's a show-off exercise to show, hey guys, I can lift 1,500 or 2,000 pounds for knees to chest. And you should be able to do that. If you're a 500-pound squatter and you can't rep out 1,500 pounds on a leg press, there's something wrong. And again, people freak out when I say that. They get mad at me. I'm just telling you my life experience with it. All right, there's too much work involved. And the next question I would ask is, what is it you're trying to do with your legs? I mean, is it just for quads? Because you should be doing all this other posterior chain stuff for your squat. You just want quads? I mean, you could go do a different machine. Like if you wanted to do a machine for your legs, and I do have one client who does do some machine work for his legs, you could do a hack squat, right? You could put 500 pounds on that thing instead of 1,000. Save yourself a lot of time. Furthermore, for the majority of you out there, I promise you your quads are probably not the limiting factor on your squat. I almost guarantee you they aren't. So again, we're coming back over to the whole quad thing. There's other quad exercises. There's other stuff you could do. I'm not a fan. I think you need more back work, more glute work, more hip work. And the quads will just blow up off of all of it anyways. Now, failing that, if you needed quad work, There's other options. You could do weighted step-ups. You could do lunges. You could do sled work. I mean, you want to blow your quads up, go drag a sled for your GPP. If quads are really what you're after. You do hip thrusts. One a lot of people don't want to think about. That's what I grow my quads with these days. They're not lacking. Right? You've got lots of options. Now, that being said, could you still do it? Sure. If you were so inclined. I might think it's not that great or useful overall, other than specific context for maybe a deadlifter. I don't think the leg press helps your squat at all, personally. I think certain weak points on a deadlift, it might help. I think it's useless for increasing your squat. It's my opinion. It just doesn't build the right muscles up. It's unlikely to address your personal weak points particularly well. It might, and if it does, then hey, do a bunch of leg presses and see if your squat goes up. It might. I mean, muscle is muscle. Okay? Any muscle in the right places will help your lifts. Because powerlifting is just a test of leverages and hypertrophy, really. But you're going to be very reluctant to consider the leg press a good use of gym time. It's just a show-off lift in which you load tons and tons and tons and thousands of pounds onto a sled when you could have got the same. If you wanted a machine, you could have just done a hack squat with a third of the weight. My opinion, says me. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.